The Atlanta Braves are sending Bryce Elder to the mound, hoping to even their series with the Seattle Mariners. Here's your 10-minute scouting report for today's game. This is your Braves Today Scouting Report, a production of the Believe Podcast Network and presented to you by FanDuel. I'm Lindsey Crosby. In the next 10 minutes, we're breaking down everything you need to know before first pitch. Today, it's the Braves and the Mariners in the series opener, so let's get into it. Both teams have put out their lineups for the game, and Atlanta's doing something new here. So Drake Baldwin still leading off behind the plate. Ozzie Albies batting second at second base. Matt Olson batting third at first base. And then this is what's new. Michael Harris II returns to the defensive lineup playing left field. We obviously have not heard from Walt Weiss yet. I am assuming this is just an adjustment to lessen how much he needs to run on that tight left quad. But it will be the first time he has played any defensive position but center field for the Atlanta Braves since he debuted in 2022. Mauricio Dubon is lined up next to him in center field batting fifth. Austin Riley at third base batting sixth. The return to the lineup of Dominic Smith, I believe it's his first start in almost a week now, at designated hitter batting seventh. Mike Yastrzemski batting eighth in right field this time, when honestly, he's looked a little more comfortable in right than in left, so I can buy into this. And number 9 hitter Jorge Mateo at shortstop. So again, brand new lineup. First time we've had this one because Michael Harris has never played left field for the Braves. On the mound for Atlanta, Bryce Elder, 3-1, 1.88 ERA. That's a little bit of an overperformance from his inputs, but not anything ridiculous. 2.98 expected ERA. 3.12 field and independent pitching. So he's been pretty decent, yeah? His pitch mix to lefties, he is actually not throwing that sinker very much at all to lefties anymore. 31% slider and four-seamer, same percentage. 17% cutter, 12% changeup, 8% sinker. I did talk a little bit on social media today. He has improved the changeup. He's significantly cut the spin rate on the changeup, which makes it tunnel really well with the four-seamer and then kind of drop off the table late. So look for that changeup and just kind of watch as he uses that against lefties, how he does it. Righties are still getting sinker slider. 53% sinker, 34% slider, 8% four-seamer, 5% changeup. Against the righties here, it all comes down to that sinker location. If he lets that sinker drift too far up in the strike zone, it's going to get rocked. And that's a problem he's mostly avoided so far this season. Not a lot of experience against Elder on Seattle's roster. Josh Naylor has 5 at-bats. That's the most of anybody on their roster. And Josh Naylor is 0 for 5, knock on wood, against Bryce Elder. When you look at Seattle's lineup, they also have a change. And it's the fact that they're getting switch hitting catcher Cal Raleigh back after he missed, he missed 3 games with soreness in his side. So JP Crawford, shortstop, still leads off batting, left-handed hitter there. The switch hitting catcher Cal Raleigh at DH batting second. Righty Julio Rodriguez in center field batting third. Lefty Josh Naylor at first base batting cleanup. Righty Randy Arozarena batting fifth in left field. Platoon bat Luke Raley, a lefty, batting sixth in right field. Cole Young, another lefty, batting seventh at second base. Backup catcher Mitch Garver, backup catcher Mitch Garver, a righty, batting eighth. And then third baseman Leo Rivas, a switch hitter, at 9. So it's lefty, switch, righty, lefty, righty, lefty, lefty, righty, switch. There is no 3-batter stretch in this lineup like there was last night. When you look at this, the opposing pitcher here, George Kirby, 4-2 with an ERA of 3, and that's actually a little bit of an underperformance. His expected ERA is 2.84, but his field and independent pitching is 3.65. He has a strikeout rate of only 19.1%, which is, believe it or not, lower than Bryce Elder's strikeout rate of 20.9%. But Kirby's also only walked 6.2% of batters. 4 of these Seattle starters are in the top 20 for best walk rate among starters in baseball. So Atlanta drew only 2 last night. You can't count on a bunch of free passes against Seattle. He's throwing 6 specific pitches. He's got the fastball. He averages 96.6 on his 4-seamer. His next most common use pitch is a sinker at 96.7. He's got a slider, which it's called a slider. It looks to me to be more of a sweeper than a slider, and he uses it like it's a sweeper, but you'll see we'll call it a slider some places, a sweeper some places there. He has a knuckle curve. He has a changeup, and he does have a cutter that he barely uses. The way that he does use these pitches against lefties, he is very well sequenced. He's throwing 4 different pitches at least 10% of the time, right? But it's a lot of fastball, curveball early. Those 2 pitches account for over 60% of his usage early in the count. When he gets behind, it's like fastball, changeup, trying to see if he can get ground balls and things like that. When he gets, like, before he gets to 2 strikes, he's throwing like 40% fastball. But when he gets to 2 strikes, like a lot of pitchers do, he's ramping up some of the breaking stuff. That's where the sweeper comes in. You know, he does throw a lot of sinkers also on 2 strike counts. A little bit of an interesting choice there, but it works for him. And I'll explain something weird on that sinker in a second. So stay tuned for that. Against righties, it's more of a simplified mix. He's really just kind of throwing sinker, 4-seam, slider. Like, he does have everything else, but it's really just sinker, 4-seam, slider. A lot of sinkers early in the count, fastball heavy in general. And you count the 4-seamer, 65% fastball usage early in the count. When he gets behind, like a lot of pitchers, he's going sinker heavy. And then his put away pitches with 2 strikes, the 4-seamer and the slider. Really just kind of interesting about, hey, he's going to prioritize that fastball. And it's got good velocity, but there you go. Something to watch for with George Kirby is against lefties, there's no specific proclivity towards throwing a ball or a strike on the first pitch. Against righties, there is a very, very, very strong tendency to throw a first pitch strike against righties. And it's more likely than not going to be a sinker or a slider. So something to watch for there. Do the Braves ambush him a little bit on that? Another thing to look for, this season, he's not done a good job of keeping the sinker down in the zone. A lot of George Kirby sinkers have been middle or upper third of the zone. I'm assuming that's intentional. I don't know for a fact, but that is a little bit more unconventional usage than how a lot of guys like to throw their sinkers. They like to keep those down in the zone to try to generate ground balls. So something to watch for. A lot of first pitches that are strikes to righties, a lot of elevated sinkers. If a Braves hitter can get both of those tendencies at the same time and is ready for it, you could see some early ambushes, some early fly balls and things like that. When you look at the bullpens here, Atlanta's bullpen is in a really interesting position, right? They had everybody throw on Sunday. Yesterday, Tyler Kinley and Aaron Bummer did back-to-backs, so they are both down today. They're not going to be able to pitch today. Dylan Lee just came off of 2 straight days. He should be available. Robert Suarez has pitched twice in 3 days. Reynaldo Lopez theoretically should be available to take multiple innings if needed. Didier Fuentes should be able to come back. And Raisel Iglesias is relatively fresh because he hasn't been in a game because he was on the injured list. Martin Perez is being held back in case of a possible start. So your long men are going to be Didier Fuentes and Reynaldo Lopez. If this game is a blowout one way or the other, they're going to ask one of those guys to jump in and take 2 or 3 innings. You look at Seattle's bullpen. Jose Suarez is available. He has not pitched yet, but he probably wants a little bit of revenge against Atlanta. Seattle did use all 3 of their leverage arms last night, right? Jose Ferrer, Edward Bizardo, and Andres Munoz. I keep saying it wrong. So, like, I'm sure they'll use them again if it is the difference in picking up a win or not. But you can imagine they'd like to avoid Andres Munoz and Bizardo because they've both already pitched twice in the last 3 days. And if you can avoid 3 times in 4 days on a guy in early March, you probably want to do it. But at the same time, they're not going to sacrifice a win just to do that. All right. Again, the things to kind of watch. There's not a ton of really extensive experience and success against George Kirby on Atlanta's roster. Sean Murphy's 5 for 9 with an RBI, not in the lineup. Mauricio Dubon's 3 for 9 with an RBI. Mike Yastrzemski's 2 for 3. We'll kind of see what that happens. But again, the things that I'm watching for is I'm watching for the elevated sinker. I'm watching for the first pitches to righties. And Braves Today sponsor FanDuel has Seattle favored on the money line and what should be a really low-scoring game, or what they think will be a low-scoring game. But Atlanta was ripping baseballs off of Logan Gilbert last night. If they can do that against George Kirby tonight, you really have to feel like this could be a win for the Braves. That's your Braves Today scouting report. If you want the deeper analysis, the lineup breakdowns, and everything behind the numbers, make sure you're subscribed to Braves Today. Enjoy the game. We will be back after it with the postcast over on Locked On Sports Atlanta and today's 3 things over at bravestoday.com.